If you're new to comics or you only follow Marvel heroes from their movies, you may not know that their latest cinematic hero, Captain Mar-Vell, is actually a legacy character, somebody whose title gets passed down from one person to the next over the years. Kind of like how there have been multiple Green Lanterns and Robins throughout the years, there have been at least 6 people in the Marvel Comics universe to bear the name Captain Mar-Vell. 7 if you include that one time there was a Skrull masquerading as the character. But here's the thing about all of the non-Carol Danvers Captain Marvels out there. They all kind of suck. They're all part of this weird cosmic nonsense that, to me at least, has held the character back from being a true A-list Marvel character. I mean, a Marvel character named Captain Mar-Vell should really be in the same ranks as Spider-Man and the X-Men. It's pretty well known that the character of Carol Danvers is not the original Captain Mar-Vell. She did not debut as Captain Mar-Vell when she first appeared back in the 60s. She originally started out as a supporting character to the first Captain Mar-Vell, and then eventually became her own superhero, Ms. Mar-Vell, the new feminist icon of the 1970s. She would only become Captain Mar-Vell in 2012, the same year the first Avengers movie came out. But by then, there had already been a long line of people to bear the name Captain Mar-Vell. So who are these other captains? Well, before we dive into that, I feel it's important to provide some historical context. The very first comic book character to be named Captain Mar-Vell was not a Marvel Comics character. He was created by Fawcett Comics and had a very popular comic book series, especially during the Great Depression. That is until DC sued Fawcett into oblivion for claiming that Captain Mar-Vell was too similar to Superman. When Fawcett's Captain Mar-Vell comic ended in the 1950s, the rights to the title of Captain Mar-Vell lapsed. Marvel Comics then bought those rights and decided to put out their own comic book with their own superhero called Captain Mar-Vell to retain those rights over the years. So whenever DC Comics, who now own the rights to the Fawcett Captain Mar-Vell, want to do anything with that character, they have to title the book and eventually the character himself after his battle cry, Shazam. They can't actually call him Captain Mar-Vell anymore. This is basically the equivalent of Super Mario Bros. 2 Doki Doki Panic, but for comic books. And to be clear, we are not talking about the Shazam Captain Mar-Vell. We're only talking about the Marvel Comics Captain Mar-Vell. We will talk more about Shazam when it gets closer to his movie release date. So, the very first character that Marvel Comics created to bear the name Captain Mar-Vell was an alien warrior named Mar-Vell. He was from the Kree race and was basically a cross between Green Lantern and Superman. He debuted in 1962 with his most famous storyline probably being his last, the 1982 Jim Starlin epic, The Death of Captain Mar-Vell. This story chronicled the character's final adventure as he died of cancer. This was actually a hugely influential book. It was one of the first to be released and marketed as a graphic novel, and it had a more mature story being told years before books like The Dark Knight Returns tried to do the same thing. And since his death in that story, Mar-Vell has pretty much stayed dead, only ever returning as either a clone, a dream, or when the heroes go to the afterlife. He appears there, otherwise he's been dead since. Mar-Vell was eventually succeeded by Monica Rambeau, the second Marvel Captain Mar-Vell and the first female Captain Mar-Vell. She didn't really have anything to do with her predecessor. Her origin and power set is actually very different from that of Mar-Vell's. Whereas Mar-Vell was super strong due to his Kree physiology and possessed powers like cosmic awareness, whatever that is, and had wrist-mounted blasters and even gained other powers over the years, Monica Rambeau got her powers from being accidentally exposed to extra-dimensional energy. It had a much wider array of abilities like being able to control different light and radiation waves, and the ability to transform into any form of energy on the electromagnetic spectrum. Hell, she didn't even call herself Captain Mar-Vell initially. The press did, so it's not like she went into being a superhero with the name already in her mind. Her run as Captain Mar-Vell lasted from 1982 to 1996 when she gave up the title and became the superhero known as Photon. She did this around the time Genis-Vell came on the scene and eventually became the new Captain Mar-Vell, the third Captain Mar-Vell. Genis-Vell, who I'm trying real hard not to call Genis-Vell, is actually the son of Mar-Vell, the original Marvel Captain Marvel. He was conceived and born after his father died due to good old-fashioned comic book science. Genis-Vell had all the same abilities as his father, but wasn't able to control them nearly as well. This was especially true of his cosmic awareness. He had a really hard time trying to control that, which eventually led him to become insane and try to destroy the universe. You know how it is. He did eventually get better thanks to the help of his alternate reality sister, Phyla-Vell. And trust me, alternate reality sister is the simplest way I can explain where she comes from. She actually succeeds Genis-Vell as the next Marvel Captain Marvel after he calms down from being insane, but that doesn't really last very long. Genis-Vell becomes Captain Marvel pretty soon after that. Eventually, Phyla-Vell settled on the title of Quasar before again changing to Martyr until finally becoming dead. Like she just died in Guardians of the Galaxy. Genis-Vell would eventually give up the title of Captain Marvel for good in 2005 when he joined the Thunderbolts. He would change his name to Photon, leading Monica Rambeau, remember her, she was also Photon, to change her name to Pulsar. And this led to a character named Noh-Varr, also known as Marvel Boy, to become the new 5th Marvel Comics Captain Marvel. Noh-Varr is a Kree from another dimension who had his genetic makeup altered thanks to nanobiology and cockroach DNA. I shit you not. Noh-Varr was given the title of Captain Marvel by Norman Osborn, yes that one, and was made a part of Osborn's Dark Avengers team. This happened after a Skrull was running around impersonating the original Captain Marvel, a Skrull with the name that I can't pronounce. But Noh-Varr's run as Captain Marvel only lasted about 1 year IRL. He eventually gave up that title and took up the name Protector, and I think now he's back to being Marvel Boy. Noh-Varr's time as Captain Marvel ended in 2010, 2 years before Carol Danvers stepped up and became the new current captain. Okay, so that's a brief history of all the Marvel Comics Captain Marvels. Did you get all that? No? I didn't think so. I tried real hard to condense all this information as much as I can, but there's just so much stuff to take in when it comes to Marvel's Captain Marvels, especially the children of Mar-Vell. To me, this is one of the reasons why I like Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel the best. Her origin is so much simpler and easier to understand than everybody else's, and in my opinion, it's a lot easier to alter and condense if it were to ever be adapted into another medium, like say, a big budget Hollywood movie. Now don't get me wrong, she too is wrapped up in her own cosmic nonsense, but her stories always felt much more manageable. They were always about what she was doing in the here and now, rather than the weird mystical space stuff involving her past. Now you would think that Marvel would want a character that bears their name, remember, to be easy and accessible to all readers. This way, a character called Captain Marvel could be a top-tier Marvel character that he kinda should be. I mean, DC treats their namesake comics with all the reverence in the world, so why wouldn't Marvel treat their namesake character with the same amount of respect? But they just kept rebooting and revamping the character over the years with the hope that something would eventually stick. With the exception of Mar-Vell, no Captain Marvel under Marvel Comics lasted more than 15 years. Again, Noh-Varr only lasted 1. And even Mar-Vell kept getting revamped during his run, all in an attempt to get people to read his comics more. Now, Carol Danvers has only been Captain Marvel for about 7 years, but I think she has the best chance of any of them to stand the test of time and be the permanent Captain Marvel for Marvel Comics. Why do I think this? Well, for one thing, she's the one with her own big budget movie coming out, so that helps. But also too, I think it helps that she was already a long established character with an easy to understand backstory who eventually earned her way to become Captain Marvel over the years. After years of being Ms. Marvel, she eventually got a promotion that she deserved. Now that's not to say that all the other Captain Marvels weren't well liked. Monica Rambeau was very popular amongst fans, and she's still around today actually. She's a supporting character for Carol Danvers in her Captain Marvel books, and even sports a brand new superhero name, Spectrum. And Mar-Vell did have a lot of really good stories during his time. Again, the death of Captain Marvel is a landmark book, especially in the continuity of Marvel Comics. And Noh-Varr was in fact named the second sexiest man in all of comics by ComicsAlliance.com. Number 1 was Dick Grayson, obviously. But with all that said, none of these characters have had the impact that Carol Danvers has had during her short tenure as Captain Mar-Vell. Mar-Vell made the right call by having the Captain Mar-Vell movie focus on Carol Danvers and not the legacy of Captain Mar-Vell, because to be honest, there is no legacy. Just a bunch of seat fillers waiting for the main star to eventually take her rightful place as Captain. So now with all that said, I'm sure I pissed off some hardcore Captain Mar-Vell fans out there. If I did, let me know down below or anywhere on the internet. Who is your favorite Captain Mar-Vell? Did you like the original Mar-Vell, Monica Rambeau, Genis-Vell, any of them? Do you think Carol Danvers is the best? What are some of your favorite Captain Mar-Vell stories from the character's long career? Any of them? Let me know down below. I will put Amazon affiliate links to some Captain Mar-Vell comics that I think showcase the best of each of the Mar-Vells, if the ones I could find at least. Also, don't forget to check out Wulff Apparel, the best clothing line on YouTube. I will stop saying that when it stops being true. And as always, new videos every Tuesday and Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, Wulff Live. So subscribe to see all of that. Like this video and share with a friend who didn't know that Captain Mar-Vell is actually a legacy character. Show them this video and maybe it'll blow their mind that there is more to this character than just Carol Danvers, even though Carol Danvers is the best one. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.